Hi guys, we are looking at our free response 3 assignment that's going to be due next Sunday, April 29th. Today is Saturday, April 21st. I hope to get these videos up today with the assignment, so you'll see it right here. Like it's going to look like this right here when I actually put it on there, and you should have all week to do this assignment. Okay, so let's get to it. So the first question is similar to what you've done before. You're being asked to draw a graph of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply of the U.S. economy in long-run equilibrium. Okay, so you want to make sure you have the long-run aggregate supply curve, and you want to show the current equilibrium output and price levels labeled as Y sub E and PL sub E. So what is that going to look like? Well, you should know, but we're going to show you anyway. It's going to look like this, except for when you first draw it, you don't need to, you only need your first aggregate demand curve and your first short run aggregate supply curve right here and here, and show your equilibrium right here at PLE and YE for output. And you want to make sure you have your long run aggregate supply curve running vertically through that point. So that's what you want to do to begin with. So you don't need to show any shifts yet, but you're going to show them, and you can do this all in one graph if you want. So you're going to actually be building this graph as you work through the question. So part 1B is we are being told that the government is going to be spending more on national defense without raising taxes. Okay, so that part of it is important, because that tells us that we're not going to take money out of the pockets of consumers or businesses by taxing. So we don't have to worry about that actually shifting the aggregate demand curve to the left, which it could or would. But what we do know that the government is going to spend more on a national defense, which is going to mean that they're going to be offering various contracts to national defense firms. So they're going to be hiring more employees, and they're going to be purchasing the raw materials to produce whatever it is the government is wanting to be produced in terms of defense products, right? So that's going to shift the aggregate demand curve to the right. And we want to show that on the graph, and we also want to explain what that's going to do to the rate of unemployment. So let's go back to our graph, and we want to show that shift to the right. And then what I think would be important or helpful to add here is show that short run, the short run point in terms of the price and the higher output right here, because in order to explain what's going to happen with the rate of unemployment or the unemployment rate, you need to show that output actually is going to increase, and we're going to have some higher price level, otherwise known as inflation. And if this inflation is caused by a shift in the aggregate demand, we call that demand pull inflation. Okay. Now remember, when there's a leftward shift, which we haven't gotten to yet, but we're going to be showing this leftward shift in the short-run aggregate supply, and that's what we would call cost push inflation, right? Right. Okay. So anyway, let's show this. So let's bring this guy over here. Let's see, who do I want to use? I think this guy. Let's bring this guy. Nope, he's too big. Let's bring this guy and show our new Y output is going to be higher. We can call that Y1, right? And then we can show the movement output. I mean, show the direction we're going in. So we're actually increasing our real GDP or our output, and we're going to have a higher price level in the short run, right here. And we're going to have, come on, I can't quite, there we go. Get him to go. Sorry. Okay, we're somewhere around right there, right? Okay, now we're going to have a movement along the short run aggregate supply from here to here as a result of the shift in the aggregate demand. So we're going to end up here, and we can call that PL1. It's fine, right? And okay, and then we can also show, let's show the price increase like this, right? Okay, now, so that's going to actually help us to answer this part right here. How will this government action affect unemployment in the short run? Well, it's going to cause it to decrease. And I want to go back. You don't have to draw this, but we can also see it if we review from our last free response. We did a Phillips curve, which shows the relationship between the inflation rate or price level and the unemployment rate. And we can see, if we look at what's going on here with the Phillips curve, we can see if we start here and we raise the price level, and so we're going to move along the short run of Phillips curve from here to here, and we can see that that's going to cause a drop in the unemployment. And we can also say that's because of the increased output here. Okay? So that takes care of question 1, parts A and B. So let's go to part C, and then I might go to the next video. No, I think I can finish this. So how will the short run see? Oh, okay, let's see. Okay, so now we're going to assume that the economy adjusts to a new long-run equilibrium, which means you're going to be back on the long-run aggregate supply. So how will the short run aggregate supply curve in the new equilibrium compare with that in the initial? Okay, so what we want to show here is we want to show a shift right here in the short run aggregate supply. So we're going to actually move along the line of this AD2 from here back up to here, right? And we're going to end up at a new equilibrium. Now, why does the short run aggregate supply shift to the left? Well, it shifts to the left because of the higher price levels. The higher price levels is going to cause the cost of supply to go up. Therefore, less is going to be supplied, and also we're going to see a wage hike. We're going to see an increase in wages that could also potentially cause overall supply to diminish, as wages going up causes supply to cost more. So it's going to shift to the left back to a point where we're back to the original equilibrium output right here, but we're at a much higher price level. Okay, now you could also say that prices were higher than expected. You could just say that the expected prices ended up being higher, and that pushed the short run aggregate supply to the left. But you're going to have to see this shift back. So it's just to really do a quick review. We started here. We had a shift in the aggregate demand curve to the right. We had a movement along the short run aggregate supply 1, so we ended up going from here to here. Then we had a shift in the aggregate supply to the left and a movement along AD2, where we went back from here to here. So we ended up at the same level of output at a new long-run equilibrium, but at a much higher price level. Okay? And let's go back. So now, what we want to do now is we want to show, actually I'm going to end this, and I'm going to come back and just briefly talk about part D and E on the next video. Okay.